Discover the incredible moment. A Sterile CEO offers to adopt a beggar's daughter for love. Alex Thompson, 38, stood in his glossy corner office, where every detail shimmered with affluence, yet felt void of life. The glass walls sparkled with the San Francisco skyline, but the bustling energy outside failed to penetrate the sterile air of his corporate triumphs. After the high-stakes investor meeting draped with empty affirmations and numbers, he stepped outside, yearning for something chaotic, something real. It was an ordinary afternoon when everything changed. As he walked past the sea of suits and tech enthusiasts absorbed in their devices, a burst of laughter caught his attention. He glanced down to see a young girl spiraling through the crowd. Emma, a tangle of unkempt hair and dirty clothes, wielded an old stick laced with imagination. Her laughter was a hauntingly beautiful disruption, slicing through the relentless drone of opportunity and profit margins that had dominated his life. He approached her cautiously, an unexpected warmth igniting within him. His mind raced. Fame, accolades, immense wealth, but all felt so far removed from this little girl's joy. Curiosity propelled him forward. Listening to Emma's story, he learned of her mother's battle with addiction, their struggles pressed under the weight of societal disregard, an existence devoid of security, yet rich with love. In that moment, Alex confronted an unsettling truth. His success had forged a fortress around him, isolating him from the very essence of humanity he now craved. Without hesitation, he verbalized the audacious offer to adopt her. Abruptly, fear took root. What would they think? Images of his colleagues' incredulous faces flashed through his mind. The world of venture capitalism thrived on caution, on perceived intelligence. Yet here he was, playing with abandon as if he could conjure an emotional revival by embracing a beggar's daughter. As he grappled with this impulsive decision, guilt churned within him. The polished persona he curated, a mask of success, trembled under the weight of his burgeoning feelings for Emma. He envisioned the backlash, the scornful whispers, the skepticism, the ridicule from his affluent circle. Was he truly ready to sacrifice his status for a girl who had nothing? The walls he'd built around himself felt both protective and imprisoning as he fought against the voice within urging him toward something undeniably real. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The tension coiled tighter around his chest, a life-altering choice balanced on the precipice of convention and compassion. He left Emma behind, the laughter haunting him while his heart warred with doubt. How could he raise her? Protect her? As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky with orange hues, Alex realized that adopting Emma was not a solution but a journey, a catalyst that could irrevocably alter the canvas of his existence. Would he falter under the weight of expectation, or dare to dive into an abyss that promised genuine love? A desperation brewed in his veins, mounting pressure as he found himself, for the first time, contemplating a future that felt alive yet terrifyingly uncertain. With society's judgment looming, Alex stood at a crossroads, one path leading to bright uncertainty, the other to familiar emptiness. The choice lingered, heavy and unresolved, leaving him breathless under the weight of his decision. The following days spiraled into a whirlwind of internal conflict for Alex. The city thrummed with life around him, while he felt like a ghost haunting its pristine offices and upscale restaurants. Each interaction with colleagues, each polished business deal, felt increasingly superficial, an echo of a past he no longer recognized. The laughter of Emma, vivid in his memory, acted as a siren song, pulling him toward turbulent waters. He couldn't escape the profound sense of longing that tightened around his heart. Divided between his allegiance to his professional image and an emerging desire to embrace a life steeped in authenticity, he found himself at war, battling the expectations that had been imposed on him and those he had placed upon himself. In moments alone he would sit at his desk, fingers trailing across glossy spreadsheets of profit margins, only to have his thoughts drift to Emma's infectious laughter. It haunted him. A single question looped incessantly. What was success if it left him feeling so hollow? As he brooded over deals and forecasts, he began to consider what a life of truth might look like. One filled not with accolades but with connection. Determined to confront his skewed perception, Alex proposed a shift. Rather than just attending the upcoming charity gala, where his presence would undoubtedly draw attention and scrutiny, he resolved to shift the focus of his speech to societal responsibility, to give voice to the voiceless. He set out to craft a speech that would highlight issues of homelessness, addiction, and the very stories that shattered his glass palace. But with each word he wrote, trembling doubt trickled in. What would the board think? How would they react to his deviation from their corporate path? In the evenings, he would question if he was simply trying to placate his conscience, or if this was a true calling. To embrace the unexpected path of vulnerability would expose him, laying bare everything he had built. Was he truly ready to be this man, the advocate, the protector, the father? The gala night arrived, and as he stood before a sea of faces adorned with affluence, Alex confronted his own image. Sharp suit, posture perfect, but with a heart thumping erratically beneath the facade. His mind flitted to Emma. What would she think of him now? The idea of her watching him stirred something deep within. He stepped up to the microphone, words trembling on the tip of his tongue. The room shifted, eyes honing in of curiosity, anticipation. Tonight I want to talk about something real, he began, the microphone amplifying the quiver in his voice. As he spoke, he peeled back layers of his professional persona, sharing stories of Emma and her mother, revealing to the audience the humanity lurking behind statistics. His voice grew stronger, fueled by an urgency to direct attention to those the world often overlooked. But with this newfound vigor came an inescapable reality. He was drawing a line in the sand, a defining moment that could fracture the carefully constructed world he inhabited. He felt the weight of judgment like a palpable force pressing down on him. He hadn't realized how relieved he would feel on that stage, how liberating it was to shed the weight of his previous life. Perhaps this was not just a speech, but the first step toward understanding what a new life could be, a life built on connection rather than capital. Yet, as applause erupted around him, he could feel the undercurrents of uncertainty threading through the room. Was this reception genuine, or was it fueled by disbelief? As he left the podium, the applause remained in his ears, mingling with his anxieties and hopes. In that moment, he faced an uncomfortable truth. He might have ignited a fire that would not only empower others but challenge himself. The moment felt both liberating and precarious, laying open a world of opportunities intertwined with dangers, the kind of recalibrations that held the potential for personal metamorphosis. The next day, he would need to confront his colleagues about his intentions. Would they see him as a revolutionary or an outcast? Alex took a deep breath, aware that he stood on the threshold of a journey, one that promised to be just as chaotic and real as the laughter of a little girl swaying through the streets. The morning after the gala, Alex awoke to an unexpected tension lodged tight within his chest. The neon skyline stretched before him, but the gleam felt dull, overshadowed by the weight of his choices. He had laid bare his soul, yet now, the fear of backlash from his colleagues ricocheted relentlessly in his mind. As he prepared for work, the thrill from the gala began to retreat, leaving behind a gnawing apprehension. Would they comprehend the depth of his transformation or merely see him as a risk? He could already imagine the whispered conversations, the sidelong glances. Images of his old self, cold and calculating, flashed unbidden, the man who valued profits over people, who buried emotions beneath a veneer of success. With a resolute heart, he walked into the office, each step heavy with uncertainty. The atmosphere felt charged, buzzed with anticipation or judgment. He could not tell. He made his way to the conference room where a team meeting was scheduled. As he approached, voices rose and fell, fragments of conversations piecing together a narrative of suspicion. Sitting at the head of the long table, his colleagues regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Alex forced himself to maintain eye contact. The silence settled, oppressive and thick. He cleared his throat, steeling himself against the waves of skepticism. "Thank you all for coming," he began, and the words felt foreign, almost shaky. "I want to discuss the direction I'm envisioning for our future, not just as a company, but as individuals." He took a breath, crafting each word carefully to convey his new vision. "Last night I shared some of my personal revelations and the importance of empathy in our work." A murmur rippled through the room, and in the gaze of Eleanor, the CFO, he sensed a mix of alarm and intrigue. She leaned back, assessing him as if he were an alien, something to be dissected. Alex pressed on, revealing his desire to integrate social responsibility into their corporate agenda, not as a gimmick, but as a necessary evolution. "I believe we can leverage our resources to create real change," he stated, aware of the rhetorical tightrope he walked. "We have the opportunity to stand for something beyond profit margins. We can help those who are struggling." His voice sharpened, momentum building as he outlined potential initiatives, partnerships with local shelters, employee volunteer programs, a commitment to social reinvestment. As he spoke, he felt both exhilaration and anxiety rise in tandem. Each nod or skeptical glance from the table felt heavy with implications. The faces before him displayed a spectrum of concern and disbelief. Was this the moment they turned their backs on him, or did he have the power to lead them toward something greater? When he finished, a pregnant pause ensued, hanging dense in the chilled air. Finally, Eleanor broke the silence. "It sounds idealistic, Alex, but you realize we also have shareholders to answer to." Her words landed like ice. He had anticipated resistance, but his stomach churned with fear and frustration. A quiet voice stirred within him. Was this a fight worth pursuing? The answer crystallized through the uncertainty. It was not just personal for him. It was essential. As the discussion continued, strange allies emerged. James from marketing surprisingly supported him, advocating for the need to resonate with a younger audience craving authenticity. Slowly, the tension in the room broke, giving way to a more fervent exchange of ideas. Yet with every spark of interest grew the shadow of dissent. Some colleagues were clearly uneasy, fitting Alex as a thorn in their side. The lines were being drawn, and he could feel it, but he also felt something else, a flicker of power surging through his veins, the promise of what could unfold if they chose to embrace this path. As the meeting closed, he knew he had set a transformative ball in motion, yet unsettling thoughts crept back in. What would this cost him? Could he withstand the backlash, the risk of being ostracized? Leaving the conference room, he noticed how his heart raced, pumping not only blood, but a renewed sense of purpose. The action he had set in motion was only beginning, but deeper questions lingered ahead. Outside, a child's laughter floated through the air. It reminded him of Emma. Would this new role allow him to be the protector he yearned to be? Determination coursed through him, yet an unsettling chill of doubt remained. He had stumbled upon a crossroads, one that could either liberate or imprison him in a new way. As the doors of the elevator closed behind him, a new reality formed in his mind. He needed to confront the powers that opposed this shift. It was time to face those who might turn against him, and his heart raced. Would standing up for a worthy cause shift the balance of his world permanently? The answer loomed, shadowy and uncertain, as he braced for what would come next. The elevator lurched to a stop, jolting Alex from his thoughts. The doors slid open to reveal a flurry of activity on his floor. Employees rushed past him, preoccupied with their tasks, yet he felt a palpable shift in how they regarded him. Whispers seemed to envelop him as he walked, voices low but laden with meaning. The air thickened with anticipation, and he wondered how many were willing to support his vision. With every corner he turned, he scanned for camaraderie, seeking reassurance in their faces, but only uncertainty reflected back at him. He made his way to his office, the weight of multiple pairs of eyes following him, amplifying his apprehension. The air felt electric, and for the first time he understood the magnitude of his gamble. Settling behind his desk, Alex took a moment to breathe, attempting to calm the storm brewing within him. What if he was wrong? What if his colleagues were right to doubt him? An unsettling thought nagged at him. He was stepping into unknown territory, a vibrant but chaotic landscape that could just as easily lead him to triumph as to failure. Moments later, his phone vibrated on the desk, an email alert. He opened it cautiously, his heart racing. It was from Eleanor, requesting an urgent meeting. Her words felt like an anchor, and an anchor that could also weigh him down. Paradoxically, he felt a small flicker of excitement. Was she seeking to destroy his proposal, or was curiosity igniting something deeper within her? He steeled himself, knowing that whatever happened next could either set him on a path to reform, or further entrench him within the corporate machinery he sought to escape. Time passed slowly as he waited, each tick of the clock amplifying his anxiety. Finally, Eleanor strode into his office, her expression unreadable. He gestured for her to sit, and she perched on the edge of a chair, arms crossed tightly. Alex sensed the tension radiating from her, and he prepared for the inevitable inquiry regarding his unconventional ideas. "Alex," she began, her tone measured and cool, "you've stirred quite the discussion. People are concerned about the implications of your vision. It feels risky, a departure from our usual protocols." Beneath the surface of her cautious words, he could hear the unspoken challenge. This was not merely about corporate strategy, but a confrontation of values. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk, adrenaline sparking through him. It was time to address the unspoken fears. "Eleanor, what we've done so far isn't enough. There's a whole world out there, and our impact can extend beyond profit. We owe it to ourselves, to our employees, to embrace this opportunity for change," he argued, injecting conviction into his voice. She raised an eyebrow, her expression softening slightly. "You genuinely believe this is viable? This company has always been about results, Alex. Can you quantify this, what you call empowerment?" "Empowerment doesn't have a straightforward metric," he replied, swallowing the knot of frustration that had formed in his throat. "But the goodwill we generate can lead to loyalty from customers and employees alike. People want to feel connected to something real." His words festered in the air, heated with implications. But was there fire enough to ignite her support? Eleanor considered him, and for the first time, cracks appeared in her skepticism. "I'm cautious, Alex. Change is uncomfortable. Corporate culture favors consistency," she said softly, but there was a glimmer of something else in her gaze. "I understand the stakes," he pressed, feeling the warmth of urgency bubble up within him. "But we must risk discomfort to reap rewards that may not be immediate, but are ultimately more sustainable. Can't we shift to being thought leaders instead of just profit-driven? Isn't that worth pursuing?" In that moment, Alex knew his transformation was not solely inward. It required him to incite change in others. He needed to break patterns, dissolve boundaries. The potential for growth lay just outside the walls of resistance built within the company. Eleanor nodded slowly, contemplation flickering in her features. "All right, we can't ignore the shareholders, but how do you propose we present this concept without alienating them?" A shift had begun, subtle yet promising. Every word exchanged carried weight, echoing the vulnerability he had exposed the night before, yet propelling him steadily toward a resolution. Behind Eleanor's facade, he sensed her willingness to explore this transformation. "Let's create a presentation with data illustrating the potential ROI of social responsibility. We can sell the idea of empathy, not just as a concept but as a profitable strategy," he responded, feeling more confident with each word. Their meeting progressed into a lively brainstorming session, and Alex felt the energy shift. He mustered everything he had to sell this vision to Eleanor, even to the others who had doubted him. Hours slipped away in discussion, planning, and strategizing. The closer they moved toward a coherent proposal, the more Alex felt the weight of their challenge lift, sparking in him a sense of determination that burned brighter than before. Yet, as he departed from that meeting, he felt a new storm brewing on the horizon. Doubts about his capacity to lead such a movement weighed heavily, along with the knowledge of dissent still lurking in the shadows. The fight ahead would be far from easy, and an adversarial force within their very ranks could just be waiting for the chance to derail him. What other secrets lay hidden among his colleagues? The doubts haunted him, but clarity emerged. The time had come to face the lingering antagonism from those who remained resistant. As he walked toward his office, a new resolve suffused his spirit. The path he had embarked upon had grown more complex, yet with complexity came the potential for profound change, both within himself and the corporate culture he wished to reshape. But would he manage to sustain the momentum, or would the tides of resistance drown out his aspirations? The truth lingered in the shadows, calling him to confront the unknown challenges ahead, and he braced himself for what awaited. The next day brought with it an air of unease that seemed to settle heavily around Alex's shoulders as he walked into the office. Feedback from his brainstorming session with Eleanor had been positive, but lingering doubts threatened to overshadow his initial optimism. The whispers that had once felt distant now surged forward, pressing against him like an unseen tide. He needed to be strategic, to navigate this growing resistance with savvy and skill. But how? As he settled into his work, he scanned the office floor with new eyes. Colleagues were huddled around desks, engrossed in conversations that seemed to rise and fall with the same rhythm of skepticism he had sensed before. The grip of doubt was palpable. There was a cautionary aura hanging over their interactions. It was time to actively counter this perception. Remembering Eleanor's pointed inquiry about quantitative metrics, Alex drew up a fresh list of relevant data. He needed to build a solid case that not only defended his proposed changes, but presented them as essential evolution, seizing that elusive opportunity to turn his vision into reality. The answer lay in tangible results, the cold comfort of numbers that equated to loyalty, retention, and increased revenue. He scheduled meetings with department heads, framed a compelling narrative, and practiced delivery in the mirror, compelled to exude confidence. When he presented his findings, a flicker of enthusiasm ignited within him. He was not merely pushing an agenda, he was painting a picture of opportunity, one that could shift the company's trajectory into something meaningful. Yet underlying that enthusiasm was a gnawing anxiety. Would anyone join him on this path? With each meeting, he learned something new, not just about the intricacies of the business, but about the people around him. He started to recognize allies hidden beneath cautious exteriors. There was Samuel from operations, who, after a tentative exchange, revealed his passion for employee engagement. Sarah, in marketing, who raised a tentative hand to agree with his focus on corporate responsibility. Gradually, the perception shifted. Whispers turned from doubt to cautious curiosity. Yet with every ally, there lingered the specter of opposition. There was Victor, head of finance, his face a mask of skepticism. He rolled his eyes at Alex's proposals, dismissing them with a wave of his hand. "Passion doesn't pay the bills, Alex," he sneered during one of their meetings. Alex's heart raced at the challenge, uncertainty creeping in once more. Would people like Victor sabotage the larger goal he envisioned from within? The confrontation awakened something vital within him. It was time to embrace those fears, not merely as shadows lurking, but as catalysts for clarity. He resolved to meet the resistance head-on, to transform the conversation from one of fear to one of investment. How could he craft a narrative that made Victor see the potential rather than the risk? One evening, while absorbing insights from industry reports, Alex's gaze drifted out the window. He observed the city, a tapestry of interconnected lives, aspirations, and struggles. Every statistic he had pored over did not just represent numbers on a balance sheet. They encapsulated the very essence of the people they impacted. This realization crystallized a path forward. Armed with this renewed conviction, he sent an invitation to Victor to discuss the potential for an internal pilot program focused on social responsibility insights. He envisioned it as an experiment, an opportunity to validate the strategy with tangible outcomes. The days melted into each other, filled with meetings and preparations, until a palpable sense of anticipation enveloped him. Would Victor take the bait, engage with the prospect, or would this confrontation further endorse the existing divide? As the date approached for their meeting, Alex found himself wrestling with deep-rooted doubts. What if Victor chose to sabotage the proposal? What if his colleagues saw him not as a visionary but as a disruptor? It was a weight that clung to him, but he realized that his journey was about pushing through that very anxiety, using it as fuel for transformation. And as he made his way through the office, Heart racing and resolve strengthening, he realized that the beginning of true leadership was not about aspiring for consensus, but about confronting opposition with resolve. With a deep breath, he prepared for both the potential alliances and storms that lay ahead. But as he turned the corner toward Victor's office, it dawned on him. In this moment of uncertainty, the stakes had never been higher. Would he inspire change or fall victim to the very doubts he sought to conquer? The door creaked open, and Alex stepped into the unknown, ready to engage in a battle for not just support, but for a shared future, one that demanded bravery in the face of resistance. And as he extended his hand to greet Victor, the result of this pivotal moment felt more consequential than anything he had faced thus far. Would he emerge a leader, or find himself retreating back to the familiar shadows of doubt? The moment the door swung shut behind him, an unmistakable tension settled in the cramped office. Alex's gaze met Victor's, and for a heartbeat, time seemed to freeze. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Victor's expression revealed little, a stoic mask that somehow reeked of condescension. "Alex," Victor began, his voice steady and modulated. "What was it you wanted to discuss?" The question rolled off his tongue like a challenge. This wasn't just about a proposal anymore. It was about a fundamental clash of ideologies, an arena where Alex had to reclaim both power and purpose. Swallowing hard, he launched into his presentation with the vigor he had rehearsed. The numerical data flowed seamlessly, painting a picture that framed the pilot program as an opportunity rather than a gamble. He juxtaposed potential costs against potential gains, aligning his narrative with the inevitable need for financial prudence. "We can enhance employee morale, which ultimately boosts productivity and retention," he argued. "We're not just spending. We're investing in our collective future." As Victor listened, Alex could sense the shift in his demeanor. Beneath the surface, small ripples of consideration swirled, but those were not enough to quiet the insidious skepticism. "Metrics are great, but have you considered the bigger picture? Companies aren't just data points. They're relationships," Victor retorted, his brows furrowing deeper with each word. "And relationships are messy." This was the moment Alex had prepared for, though it still stung to see Victor dismiss the heart of his argument. He paused, letting the silence stretch, contemplating how to lean into the emotional narrative without sacrificing his grounded logic. "It is exactly those relationships that we're aiming to improve. By investing in social responsibility, we not only build bonds internally, but also signal to our market that we are committed to something greater than profit margins. We become a company that values people." Victor's snort of derision caught him off guard. "And what about our shareholders? Your idealism costs them real money. Are you prepared to compromise their investment for what? A sense of warmth? We exist to make profit, Alex." Fury ignited within Alex, but he forced himself to breathe deeply, deploying the technique of framing his own inadequacy as a weapon against the inflating anger. He had once been fearful of confrontation. Now, it felt like an essential crucible. "Isn't that a short-term view, Victor? You're assuming shareholders will turn away from a brand that demonstrates integrity and responsibility." The flash in Victor's eyes betrayed him, the momentary crack when his usual stoicism faltered. The tension thickened. It was a tango of wills, each seeking to assert dominance, yet tethered to the same reality. "You keep mentioning integrity, but how often does that translate into results?" Victor shot back, the challenge seeping through his retort. "I don't want to see this approach muddled with good intentions. You need to convince me it will work." This, at least, felt like ground Alex could navigate. "Then let's pilot the initiative with a small team, assess the impact after 3 months, and share results transparently. If it doesn't deliver," he hesitated, then continued with deliberate conviction, "if it doesn't contribute to our bottom line, I'll personally remove it from consideration." Victor regarded him for a moment, and in that fleeting second, Alex felt the course of the future tremble on the edge of decision. Victor's decision could either open wide a door to collaboration or slam it shut with finality. "All right," Victor conceded slowly, his words laced with disbelief. "You better be prepared to face the scrutiny." With that, a shift surged through Alex's veins, an intoxicating blend of relief and disbelief. Had he just begun to break through one of the key barriers looming over him? But even as triumph flickered, he knew this was merely a battle, not the war. As he exited Victor's office, a smile crept onto his face, only to be swiftly tempered by foreboding. He had ignited the engine of change, but what lay ahead? The road was riddled with uncertainties, alliances yet to be formed, and further adversaries that could plunge him back into doubt. The next few weeks would reveal whether this moment was a genuine turning point or just a respite before the storm. Each step forward eroded a layer of his old self, but could he sustain the momentum? With new resolve churning inside him, Alex headed back to his desk, ready to tackle the ever-evolving landscape of perception and influence. Yet, buried within him was the whisper of his past vulnerabilities. Would this round of confrontation empower him, or would it unravel something he couldn't predict? As he settled into his work, one nagging thought lingered. The moment of true challenge had yet to come. What awaited him in the unfolding narrative of corporate dynamics and personal ambition? In the days that followed, the atmosphere around the office shifted subtly, a charged current flowing beneath every interaction. Alex leaned into the momentum he had gained, transforming his enthusiasm into tangible tasks. The pilot program needed a framework, a team, and most importantly, belief. He found himself tapping into a well of hidden resolve, diving into market analyses and employee surveys with feverish devotion. The prospect of bringing something novel to life invigorated him, revealing competencies he never knew he possessed. It was as if each spreadsheet, meeting, and brainstorming session was a building block, remolding his identity from hesitant participant to a confident architect of change. Yet doubt persisted, ghosting the edges of his newfound zeal. He often caught himself replaying Victor's skepticism, the way it had curled at the corner of his mouth like a poisonous vine. The very real possibility of failure hovered over him, dark and oppressive. Could he withstand scrutiny? Would his idealistic vision crumble under the glare of financial implications? Compounding his anxiety was the growing distance he felt from his colleagues. Previously, he had been a fixture in the work culture, sharing light banter and camaraderie. Now he found himself encased in a solitude fueled by ambition. The other members of his team, while supportive, looked to him for direction. It was exhilarating and terrifying. He would be the one carrying the weight of their hopes on his shoulders. During lunch one day, he sat alone at his desk, poring over mission statements and guidelines for the new initiative. A stack of quarters by the window caught his eye, remnants of a small change jar he had accumulated over the years. It struck him how financial decisions permeated every aspect of life, reminding him of the delicate balance between aspirations and survival that he now faced. Deep down, Alex wrestled with the implications of his pursuit. The deeper he plunged into the data, the more he uncovered the realities of corporate culture's indifference to altruism. A gnawing thought circled his mind. What if his endeavor became just another corporate project? A time manager's solution on a timeline, devoid of the very heart he sought to infuse? Determined to transcend such limitations, he reached out to colleagues, people from different departments who shared a passion for progressive change. Together, they began to create lively brainstorming sessions that ignited energy in the dreary conference room. They explored ideas beyond financial metrics, delving into the emotional makeup of the employees and the importance of their voices. Through this collaborative effort, Alex discovered hidden strengths, not just within himself, but in others as well. Insights from team members resonated, revealing novel approaches that synthesized Alex's original vision with practical realities. One idea spiraling into another, forming a constantly evolving web of commitment and creativity. However, not everyone welcomed this newfound enthusiasm. Victor's shadow loomed larger with each passing day. Whispers of dissent began to crop up. Some employees were wary of changes they felt came too quickly or threatened their established comfort zones. Doubts were voiced in the corridors, an uneasy murmuring about the potential backlash if the pilot failed. Alex soon realized that he had entered a tightrope act, balancing optimism and realism. One lunch break, an unexpected invitation found its way to him. Lunch with Victor, the very man whose skepticism still rang heavily in his mind. As curiosity and dread intertwined, he hesitated. What did Victor want? Would it be a confrontation, a sham of niceties, or worse, an ultimatum? Every instinct told him to prepare for battle, yet something deeper urged him toward reconciliation. He understood that to succeed, collaboration was essential, even with those who challenged him. It was time to face the storm head-on, to articulate not just the numbers, but the passion that fueled this transformation. With that thought, Alex steeled himself for the meeting, hoping he could find a way to sway Victor or, at the very least, engage him in genuine dialogue. The moment of truth was at hand, and with it the uncertainty of his journey bubbled to the surface. Would he emerge victorious in his pursuit of change, or would Victor's influence expose a vulnerability he couldn't hide? The stakes were higher than ever, and Alex was standing on the precipice of pivotal decisions that could redefine everything he had worked for. The cafe buzzed with the lunchtime crowd when Alex sat down across from Victor. The faint aroma of coffee mingled with the sharp scent of pastries wafting through the air, adding to the tension that lingered between them. Alex's heart raced. He could feel the weight of Victor's gaze as though it pierced through to his very thoughts. What was Victor's angle? "Alex," Victor began, his tone unexpectedly neutral. "I appreciate you meeting me. I've been watching your progress with the new initiative." The words felt more like a prelude to criticism than praise. Alex swallowed hard, unsure whether to brace for a blow or to welcome an olive branch. "I've heard some buzz," Victor continued, a hint of something inscrutable behind his carefully constructed facade. "But you do realize that any major shift in our current operations invariably causes ripples, right?" Alex nodded, feeling a knot tighten in his stomach. "Of course I understand. That's why I—" "Then let me be frank." Victor leaned forward slightly, his eyes narrowing. "You and your team have potential, but ambition without a solid strategy will crumble. There's a fine line between innovation and instability, and I fear you might be leaning dangerously to the latter." Those words cut deep. Alex felt a surge of annoyance pushing against the walls of his composure. He'd invested countless hours into this project. It wasn't just numbers and charts, it was a vision for something greater. "Victor, with all due respect, what I'm proposing is not just another project. It's about creating a culture where employees feel valued and engaged. Isn't that something we should strive for?" Victor's expression didn't waver. "And how do you plan to convince the board of that value when they're faced with potential losses?" "By presenting a clear plan," Alex replied, trying to infuse confidence into his voice. "We have the data to back it up. Engaged employees are more productive. It's not rocket science." "Data?" Victor scoffed, leaning back in his chair. "Is that your only weapon? I've seen brilliant ideas die in spreadsheets. You need more than just numbers. You need a narrative that resonates. People respond to stories, Alex, especially those who hold the power." Alex's mind raced. "So, what are you suggesting? That I sugarcoat the facts? This is about authenticity." "Authenticity is often framed by how it's presented," Victor replied coolly. "If you want to be a leader, you must become a master of influence. Use your passion. Channel it strategically." Alex's pulse quickened. Victor was offering him a tantalizing secret without fully revealing it. Possibly a path forward, but at what cost? Could he compromise his values for the sake of persuasion? It set off alarms in his mind. Merging sincerity with strategy felt like a tightrope walk between authenticity and manipulation. "This isn't just about me," Alex pressed, the urgency bubbling over. "This idea hinges on trust, the trust between the employees and the management. If I don't embody that, how can anyone else?" Victor regarded him with a mixture of admiration and skepticism. "You're beginning to understand. But remember, in the world we navigate, it's not just your vision, it's how you position it." What he didn't know was that Alex had already begun crafting that narrative. The thought ignited something within him, a stubborn flicker of determination. But how to honor both his integrity and Victor's calculus? The meeting continued, each exchange a verbal sparring match. Ideas flowed, strategies were debated, and insights were exchanged. Yet, as the clock ticked down, Alex felt the balance remaining precarious. Finally, as Victor stood to leave, he added one last enigmatic statement. "Prove to me that your vision isn't just another corporate fad, and I'll support you." With that, he departed, leaving Alex grappling with the myriad emotions that swirled within him. Could he reshape this initiative to align with Victor's expectations without losing sight of his own? Determination surged through him. He could lead this transformation. There was more at stake now. He would navigate this delicate balance, redefine authenticity, and secure allies. But as he grabbed his notebook and prepared to strategize, another thought struck him. Was he truly ready for the game Victor was playing? The moment of decision loomed on the horizon, a crossroads that felt both thrilling and foreboding. What sacrifices would he make to ensure his vision endured, and at what personal cost? The cafe's ambiance faded as Alex stepped out into the brisk afternoon air. The sun dipped slightly lower in the sky, casting longer shadows across the pavement. With each step, he felt the residue of Victor's words clinging to him like static in the air. There was a storm brewing in his mind, the tension coiling tighter around his determination to succeed. What did Victor expect of him? Was he prepared to mold his vision into a narrative that would sway skeptics? Alex's thoughts tumbled over each other as he walked to his office, the stakes clearer yet muddier all at once. He had never been one to compromise his values. Yet here he was at the edge of a decision that could define his career, and perhaps his very essence as a leader. As he entered his workspace, he felt the familiar hum of his team buzzing with energy. The faint sound of laughter and capricious banter reminded him of why he had such a vested interest in their engagement. Yet a gnawing doubt lingered. Could they sense his inner turmoil? Did they realize the weight of expectation building on his shoulders? Gathering his thoughts, Alex settled into his office chair, the familiar leather offering a semblance of comfort. The walls, adorned with motivational posters and reminders of past achievements, loomed as silent witnesses to his growing uncertainty. What was it worth to portray this pristine image of leadership? Was there a path where he could remain authentic while navigating the treacherous waters laid out by Victor? Flipping through his notebook, he thought about the narrative he wanted to weave. He needed to present not just a plan but a story, one that would resonate emotionally and logically. He had the analytics to back it up. Now he had to craft the compelling reason for the board to invest in their shifting culture. But what would that narrative even look like? Reach for data couldn't solve this. He needed to reflect on his own journey. Moments of clarity struck amid the swirling anxiety. He recalled how innovation had developed from collaboration, each team member contributing unique insights, their collective experiences underpinning the foundation he aimed to build. It was engagement grounded in authenticity. This was where he would start, but would it be enough? How could he ensure that Victor, and subsequently the board, recognized the merit of his vision amid the clamor of performance indicators? The realization began carving a pathway through the fog of uncertainty. He needed allies, individuals who believed in the vision as fiercely as he did. He'd have to present a united front, not just a singular narrative tied to his ambition. He rose from his chair, the determination fortifying his posture. Alex sought out his team, intent on igniting their passion. He would frame their experiences and values into a compelling story that could charm even the most skeptical board member. The conference room would soon be a hive of collaboration, ideas tossed like confetti on a celebratory day, each one adding to the tapestry of their united vision. As he gathered them together, a sense of anticipation warmed his chest. "Team," he began, excitement spilling into his voice. "We need to craft something special, something that goes beyond numbers." Yet, as hands shot up and ideas began to flow, a whispered doubt tugged at him. Was his desire to engage them simply compulsion spurred by Victor's challenge, or did it blossom genuinely from the ground of shared purpose? Tension curled again within him, a question about the authenticity of his aspirations hanging in the air like a suspended note. Would he still be able to conduct this symphony without losing himself in the arrangement? As they brainstormed in flashes of inspiration, the crescendo of ideas washed over him. Indeed, a change was at hand, but at what expense? He could feel the dual pangs of opportunity and risk. The narrative he was building now had layers yet to be unveiled. With every vibrant suggestion from his team, he could visualize the emerging story. one that could resonate beyond the boardroom. But still, the flickering doubt ate at his resolve. The time had come to face not just the board and Victor, but the very essence of his own ethical boundaries. Would he emerge as the architect of change he aspired to be, or would he yield to the pressure of external expectations? The moment of truth was approaching, and its weight felt heavier than ever. As the days rolled on, Alex intensified his efforts, balancing unwavering passion with a newfound clarity. The brainstorming sessions bore fruit, where each team member revealed their insights, linking their personal stories to the broader narrative that Alex sought to craft. Their collective ideas transformed into a vivid tapestry, their future vision punctuated with authentic experiences that could resonate deeply with stakeholders. He became the conductor of this orchestra, deftly orchestrating their thoughts into a coherent narrative that championed both social responsibility and profitability. With every meeting, every crafted phrase, Alex's confidence burgeoned further. He was no longer a hesitant participant in his own life. He had evolved into a leader, the kind of leader who inspired not just through authority, but through genuine engagement. As they neared the presentation date, Alex prepared meticulously, weaving in data points that demonstrated the potential for increased productivity and employee satisfaction. The story was not one of lofty ideals alone. It was a narrative supported by empirical evidence. He felt proud of how far he had come. The feelings of isolation that once nestled in his chest had all but evaporated. Emma's laughter echoed in the back of his mind, widening the scope of his aspirations beyond mere profits. However, doubts occasionally sneaked into the crevices of his optimistic outlook. The looming board meeting weighed heavily on him. Would Victor, the ever-watchful skeptic, accept their narrative, or would he return with daggers ready to dissect their carefully structured argument? Alex braced himself for confrontation, yet a burgeoning anticipation shimmered in his veins. A crucial challenge awaited, and he relished the idea of proving himself. The day of the presentation arrived, echoing with palpable anticipation. Alex stood before his colleagues and the board, the room buzzing with tension. Sitting across from him, Victor's inscrutable gaze felt like an intense spotlight as he prepared to unveil what they had meticulously developed together, their shared vision becoming a powerful counter-argument against the prevailing notion that profit was paramount above all. "Good afternoon, everyone," Alex began, his voice steady yet infused with a warmth that had often eluded him. "Today I want to share a vision, one sustained by our collective passion and the very essence of who we are as a company." The words flowed freely as he painted a vivid picture, blending data with heartfelt anecdotes, linking their mission to the very heartbeat of the organization. He saw flickers of recognition in his colleagues' eyes as he introduced the pilot program, demonstrating its potential to enhance the workplace atmosphere and instill a sense of belonging among employees. For each data point he presented, showing that companies prioritizing corporate social responsibility often see improved retention and customer loyalty, he punctuated his arguments with personal stories from the team, showcasing their shared investment in innovation that resonates beyond the boundaries of profitability. As Alex concluded, silence hung in the air for a heartbeat before a wave of applause broke the stillness. The room, once filled with tension, transformed into a dynamic pulse of energy as his colleagues rallied together. He turned to find Victor's expression altered, a mix of contemplation and respect, a shift he had not imagined possible. "Alex, that was compelling," he acknowledged with guarded sincerity. "I still hold reservations, but I see the merit in your approach. It's not often that someone can meld data with heart so effectively." Those words resonated deeply within Alex, a solid validation of his journey, a confirmation that he had not only shared a vision, but had truly begun to change narratives. Over the following weeks, Alex witnessed a remarkable transformation. The initial pilot program rolled out smoothly, with members from various departments engaging enthusiastically. They were no longer just cogs in the machine. They blossomed into stakeholders, investing their talents in a mission that had revitalized the company's culture. The measurable outcomes began to materialize. Employee satisfaction scores soared, and productivity metrics showed a notable uptick. In response, showing authentic recognition of their efforts, The leadership team integrated their feedback into broader company policies, signaling both autonomy and connectivity. As Alex surveyed the changes unfolding, a rare sense of fulfillment enveloped him. He saw how far he had come. The stark contrast between the sterile CEO, engrossed in wealth and status, and the determined leader, now deeply attuned to the heartbeat of his organization. His relationship with Emma had become a cornerstone of his transformation, anchoring him to the idea that success is most meaningful when anchored in humanity. His accomplishments began to ripple beyond the workplace. Alex sought opportunities to engage with the community through outreach programs, infusing the essence of social responsibility into his life outside of work. He organized events that brought awareness and support to those grappling with addiction and homelessness, never forgetting where his journey began. In the end, Alex achieved not only professional recognition, but also personal evolution. He emerged as a leader committed to transformation, known for his empathy and drive for change. The applause faded, but the resonance of those moments lingered, shaping his trajectory and reminding him that the path to fulfillment is paved not by isolation or fear, but through connection and courage. Now, as he walked through the bustling city streets, laughter drifting through the air, he smiled, confident in his newfound legacy, a sphere rooted deeply in authenticity, creativity, and the unwavering belief that embracing humanity is the ultimate form of success. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Every interaction makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this satisfying conclusion. What did you think of Alex's transformation? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering finale. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.